Good evening, guys. It is February 11th, 2022. On this video here, I want to talk to you about just some things that have been on my mind and some things that I really just want to discuss and talk about with some people. Now, this is something that I take a lot of passion about. It's something that has always kind of just bothered me in a sense. And that is our generation of Americans really don't understand the hardship that the older generation went through. We really don't. And this is not to be judgmental towards anybody or anything like that, but I want to talk to you about some things that have really just been kind of bothering me for the longest time. People have this tendency to basically just say, oh, well, I want this, I want that, this is what I want, this is what it is, I want this, I want that. Well, this is something that I want to talk to you guys about. The people who went through the Great Depression, the people who went through rough times financially and stuff, they didn't just get to go out and do whatever they want and buy whatever they want. This is just something that I think our generation just does not understand the value of. And this is something that I think is just utterly destroying people because they don't understand the value in, first of all, waiting and, just being wise about the decisions they're making, but also just financially, going into debt for things, all this stuff. And I'm not, being judgmental towards anyone. If you want to do something, if you want something, but I want you to think about the decisions that you're making because, we need to be wise, both in the good times and the bad times. And, and I'm not just talking about like hard times, like, with this virus that went on and all this stuff. I mean, honestly, that stuff, if the biggest crisis you've ever had is no toilet paper on the shelves, let me tell you, that is, you're doing very, very, very well if the worst thing in your life that ever happened to you is no toilet paper in the stores. Because there is so much worse that could happen that it was a true blessing, what we experienced with that. Now, I will say that, we're just not used to, things. We have gotten so accustomed to everything being so easy, so instant, so right now, right here. If we want it, we get it, and we get it now. And I think that is honestly a foolish way to live. And I'm not saying that it's wrong to buy things. I'm not saying it's wrong to want things. I'm not saying that at all. You know, we all have things that we want and we enjoy, myself included. I enjoy certain things. But here's what I want to talk about. I'm noticing that so many people are going into debt for everything they want instead of being wise, saving up the money first, and then buying that item. Because, I will be completely honest with you guys. To tell you the truth, I have never had debt before, ever. Not once. And I'm not trying to, show off or anything, but I want to just explain to you, yes, I have some nice things going on here, and I have some things that I enjoy, but I refuse to go into debt. It is not happening. No way, no how. I'm not going into debt. The only time that I think debt is acceptable for me is medical bills. If there was some sort of catastrophe where, I couldn't pay for the treatment right away and stuff, I can kind of understand that. But one thing I will say is, I'm 22 years old, I'm going to be turning 23 this summer. I've yet to get my driver's license. I've yet to drive a car. I've yet to buy a car. And I'm doing that by choice. Now, I'm working in that direction, but I'm not going to jump in and just do things now just because everybody's doing it. It's not going to happen. And, this is the other thing that I want to talk about. There's this old saying, and I love it. Use it up, wear it out, make it do, or do without. And this is something that I think a lot of people in our culture today do not understand or can't even fathom. Now, what is using it up? Using it up is you make sure that you get all of the use out of something before you throw it away or before you get a new one. You repair things, you keep things going, you squeeze everything out of that toothpaste tube, you turn your bottles of soap and shampoo upside down and let everything drain down. You make things stretch as far as you possibly can. And I'm serious. I mean, and some people are thinking, oh, well, what's the point in living that way? Well, there may come a day, people, where things may be hard. You may not be able to get things as easily, for a time. Or, something, might be more expensive, or it might, there's all these things that we need to think about. And this is not to scare anybody, but I want you to just be wise. And this is a good time to start right now, so that way you have it in practice, so that way whenever issues come up, you're all set to go. And you already have that in place, and I've been doing this for years now. I mean, about 10 to 12 years ago, things were kind of rough for my parents and things financially. Not going to go into detail, but it was tough. It was just a lot of like reconfiguring, our finances and all that stuff. And during that time, I was like 8 to 10 years old. From that time on, I have always been very concerned about finances, about money, about, not necessarily worried like, oh no, what am I going to do to pay for things? But just like mindful of like just being frugal and being wise and, not having debt. And that goes for everything. And I do mean everything, including cars. I will never take out a loan for a car. It is not going to happen. No way, no how. No, nobody can convince me otherwise. To me, that is the most foolish thing that I could do financially. I just couldn't wrap my brain around it. Now, taking out a mortgage or something for a house, I can kind of understand that because that's a major, major, major expense. And with the cars, I'm not talking about like nice new cars or newer cars. Obviously, if I have the cash to pay for that, if you have the cash to pay for that, you can go new if you want, if you have it in cash. But when I first start buying cars, this is what I'm going to do. Growing up, my parents have had cars that are 15 to 20 years old for most of my life. They had one that they bought when it was 4 years old, and they drove that thing for 10 years until the engine blew. That is part of wear it out. That's where the wear it out comes into play. Not just with cars, but with everything. But I'll use cars as an example. Cars, I will not get rid of a car or an appliance or anything like that until it is absolutely worn out and beyond repair. That's just me. I don't care if the car doesn't have AC. I don't care if the car smells like it's burning. I don't care if the car, and some of this stuff we've actually had before. I don't care if it's, a 30-year-old rusty, hunk of metal, I'm serious. I don't care. It doesn't faze me. Because there have been so many times where we have been either on one car, or a car that constantly has issues, or a car that constantly has something going on, or has a leak or something. I've just grown up around that so much to where it does not even faze me anymore. Like, yes, it's an inconvenience. Yes, it's frustrating. Yes, it's annoying when it happens, but I don't really care at this point. Never really have. I mean, and I'm not worried about, like, oh, well, is it going to break down or what? Not, if there's a major issue and it's sounding like it's going to, yeah, I can get a little concerned. But generally, I'm not worried about it. So wear it out. Same thing with shoes. Wear shoes until they're absolutely worn out. Just because something looks a little dingy or a little old doesn't mean it has to be replaced. This shirt that I'm wearing, and in general, my whole closet, I get all of my clothes used with the exception of, undergarments and stuff like that, Don't need to go into the details of that, but you know what I'm talking about. But like shirts, pants, all of that I buy used. 99% of my wardrobe has either come from Goodwill, eBay, other thrift stores, garage sales, all kinds of places like that, And that's part of being frugal too, is reusing things. Excuse me. So, yes. Let's see. Make it do. Now, making it do, what does that mean? Okay, so here's an example. I have this wide dresser over here. And kind of a TV cart type thing that I'm using as my nightstand. I'll just use that as an example, because that's a perfect example. This thing literally was given to me by a neighbor at my old house before I moved to this house. And I didn't really have the greatest setup as far as a nightstand. It wasn't really all that functional. It was so, this lady was just going to throw it out, and I'm like, well, I could use it. And I've been using it ever since. I mean, it's basically supposed to hold a TV and VCR and stuff. It's not meant to be a nightstand, but that's what I'm using it as. It's small. It's probably about this wide and this tall, And so I'm using that. I'm making it do, Could I go out and buy an actual nightstand? Yeah, absolutely. Do I have the money to do that? Yeah, I could do that. But do I really want to? No. That's not something I want to spend my money on. And so, just kind of thinking about things like not everything has to be perfect. Not everything has to be up to date. Not everything has to be the latest and greatest. Here's another example. Okay? I'm using it to film right now. But my phone is an iPhone 7. I bought that brand new in 2019. The iPhone 10 was the big thing back then. I didn't want the iPhone 10. I can't justify spending almost $1,000 on a phone. I just cannot wrap my brain around it. It just blows my mind. And so I just bought the iPhone 7 because I wanted something simple. Now, I wanted to go for the iPhone 6 at the time. I wanted to go a little bit lower because I was stepping up from a 5C. But my mom talked me into doing the 7 at least because she was like, well, I just don't want it to get too outdated too quickly on you, which makes sense. But also, I'm on a limited income. And so some of this stuff really just blows my mind because I just don't have the money to do that, you know? And so trying to make things stretch, trying to make things work, trying to, just make things do because I'm still using my iPhone 7 to this day in 2022. And I will continue to use this iPhone 7 until it is absolutely worn out and doesn't work for what I need it to do. I will not replace my phone every year. It is not happening, people. It's just not happening. Same thing with cars. Cars, I will just drive until either one, if it gets totaled, or damaged enough to where it's less expensive to buy another car. 2, the transmission goes out, or 3, the engine goes out. Those are my only 3 reasons that I would replace a car. It just is. We've had cars that literally, you have to drive it with the windows open in the summertime because there's no air conditioning. That's not a big deal to me, really. I mean, especially if you've done it for a few years, it's nothing. Once you get used to it, you're used to it, and it's like, I can live this way. And then, now we have cars with AC that work great. But when we first got those cars with the air conditioning, it almost froze me out because I was so used to a car with no air conditioning. I was literally freezing, and I said, turn off the air. It's too cold. At first. Now I'm kind of adjusting to it. But, there's just so many things that I think we need to just learn from and just know that we don't have to have the latest and greatest. We don't have to have everything. We don't have to have, what everybody else has, Because honestly, my neighbors around me, I can care less about what they're doing. If they got a problem with what we're doing here in our house, that's their problem. It's not our problem. because we're doing things the way we need to do it to be successful and to be wise and to look well to the ways of our household. Because if, when things get hard, it's kind of nice to know that you don't have a lot of debt, you don't have a lot going on, and, you just make things work. I mean, literally every single device that I have, I have an older iPad, I have an older MacBook, that I bought brand new, but I don't want to go top of the line, latest and greatest. I just don't. I mean, what's the purpose of that? If it works, it works. And the same thing goes for wearing it out and doing without, with this. I'm going to give this example. Updating your home. Now, sorry, my eyes are bothering me. Updating your home. Now, there's nothing wrong with updating things and, things that need to be done. But I look at it this way. If it's in good condition and it still functions, I'm going to leave it. This house that I'm in right now is just about 20 years old. Are there some things that could probably be done? Yeah, there's some things that could probably use to be replaced and redone and stuff, but is it absolutely urgent? No, it's not. Basically everything in this house that I look at, pretty much, aside from one or two things maybe, I would just leave. Just leave it alone. Don't replace it, don't redo it, just leave it. Because to me, it doesn't make any sense to waste material, waste money, waste resources in doing a lot of that stuff. I mean, and I'm not against it at all. Like, I love to, clean things up and keep things in good condition and looking good and stuff, and I love that. But a lot of things that are unnecessary, I just try to leave alone, and try to just save money. And if something needs to be redone, like furnace or air conditioner goes out, or water heater goes out, or something like that, or heaven forbid there was like a major catastrophe such as a water heater that blows, or a toilet that bursts, or whatever, have some money put aside so you can do repairs that are necessary, from water damage or whatever, and the other thing is just, on that, like I said, if it's in good condition for me, I'm gonna keep it. Now, I'll give you an example of one thing that actually was driving us crazy, and I really, really wanted to replace this. And this is something that I just said, okay, I'll replace this, but everything else, I'm like, I'm good. I don't want to touch it. We have 2 bathrooms in this house. Both of the bathroom sink faucets were all corroded and just yucky. And I just was like, well, I'd like to just replace these faucets because they're all corroded and they probably have been here for 20 years. So let's just replace them. And I did. I mean, they weren't fancy faucets, they weren't expensive faucets, but I just put in new faucets. Okay? You know, toilets, yeah, they're 20 years old, but toilets still flush fine. They're still in good condition. I just repair them when something goes wrong. Showers, they're still in good condition. I just repair what needs to be repaired. Light fixtures, I just leave them. You know, unless there's something very funky where I can't get the right bulbs for it or the right parts for something, I just leave things, you know. So, and that's the other thing, is just keeping it simple. Keep it simple. Because if you keep it simple, it's easier to maintain, it's easier to keep clean, it's easier to get parts for, and you don't really have to worry about it too much. And then, you know, the other thing, just wear it out, clothes. You know, just because your clothes have a little bit of a worn spot in them doesn't mean that they need to be thrown away. You know, learn how to repair your clothes. Learn how to, you know, make things stretch. Make things last. And, oh my gosh, for goodness sakes. I'm just gonna get my pet peeves out here. For goodness sakes, people. What is wrong with people who will not take care of what they already have? I just don't understand that. You know, that's the other thing. Take care of what you already have. Because if you take care of something, it's going to take care of you. If you don't take care of something and you neglect it, well, guess what? It's not going to take care of you. Very, very simple. So that goes for your cars, that goes for your appliances, that goes for everything. You know, and that's the other thing, you know, keeping it for a long period of time. Appliances, I will not replace appliances until they're absolutely worn out. I will fix everything until I can't fix it anymore. Refrigerators, yeah, our refrigerator downstairs is like 25 years old. Almost 30 years old at this point. It's no young puppy. But it still works. It still does what we need it to do. You know, would we like something a little bit newer and a little bit nicer? Yes. But we're making it do. Make it do. You know, dishwashers. Just keep those for as long as you can. Or just hand wash dishes. Stoves, keep those as long as you can. Keep them repaired, keep them clean, keep them in good shape. Washers and dryers. We've had the same washer and dryer for the last 16 to 17 years. Never had a problem with them, and I will continue to fix them and fix them and fix them until they're absolutely worn out. until they're not worth fixing. That's just how I am. I just don't like throwing things out, you know. So, anyway, I just wanted to come on here and talk to you guys about some of that stuff because, you know, when things are tight, when things are tough, you're gonna need to just look at the situation and just do the best with what you have to work with. And just be thankful that you have what you have. It may not be all that you want. It may not be all that you dreamed of having. But, God has, all that we have comes from God, from the Lord our God. Be thankful for what He's given you. And I'm not perfect at it. I think we all can think, oh my gosh, I wish I had this, or I wish I had a better this, or I would. But try to have gratitude for the things that God has given you. And, I'm not saying you'll never have these things, but just say, well, that's just not for right now in this season. And, just do what you can with what you have. And be wise with it. Repurpose, reuse, repair, and make things last. We throw so much away in our society that really are not worn out, that can be repaired, that can serve somebody else, that can provide for somebody else. I just want us to think about these things. Be resourceful, be wise, and use what you can. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something from it. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more.